Hey there, everybody. Matt Carter here.
Jessica Carter from CARTERMATT.com.
Welcome to our discussion about The Sinner and the season 3 premiere that just wrapped on USA. I have been excited for this for a really long time. I love Matt Bomer.
Oh, I love Matt Bomer, and he's so good in this.
Yeah.
It gave me everything I was hoping for from this premiere.
Yeah, and it just him being back on USA, it like triggers this part of me that wants to imagine White Collar is still on the air, though I firmly understand that if White Collar was on the air now, we probably wouldn't have time to do both shows, but still,
Yep.
it's a good combination. It's a really, I think, good premiere, and I think the thing that just makes me the most excited about The Sinner every single time it's on is that you have always an answer to sort of who's responsible for the death kind of early on in the show, and then it's just the rest of the season is sort of figuring out the why. And I think we've got a pretty fun, interesting mystery to unpack here.
Yeah, and that's what makes The Sinner stand out from all the other sort of crime dramas that are on TV in general, is that we already know who's involved. And usually it's the opposite. We're trying to figure out who's involved.
Yeah, and I think we got a lot to unpack. We have a lot of theories. Everything is starting to turn around. The gears are going. Before we do anything else here, though, if you do like this discussion, give us a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other updates that we've got coming up. Why don't we begin, though, by sort of setting the table, not in the extremely awkward way that we saw for Jamie and Leela with Nick's arrival.
Yeah, no, not in that way.
All right, here are the main players. We have Jamie Burns, Matt Bomer's character.
Yep.
He is seemingly, like, he just seems like a mild-mannered guy. He's a teacher. People seem to like him.
Yeah, he's got his wife. They're getting ready to have a kid. They have their home. He seems to have built a life for himself that is very sort of, and I hate to use this word, but I can't think of another one, sort of nondescript, blending in with everybody, that kind of feeling. Good job, house, wife, kid on the way, and you know, someone that you wouldn't right away notice, which makes me feel like there's something else that he's kind of hiding out.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like he was in sort of a more bustling metropolis not that long ago.
Yeah.
And that they eventually moved from the city out to upstate New York, which is where, in some shape or form, a lot of The Sinner takes place. And it's there that the action kind of starts to get going, where it turns out Jamie and Leela have a bizarre visitor that night in the form of Nick, who's played by Chris Messina, and just looking at Nick, you know this guy, there's something off with this guy.
Yeah, there is something off, but it's also kind of interesting because there's also something off about Jamie.
Yeah.
And we've only seen the first episode, but already I've got sort of theories running around my head of like, really, what's the connection with these two? Is it just that Nick is like a little bit off, or is it something that Jamie did, or is it something that they both were involved in?
Yeah.
And then Nick was starting to embrace whatever darkness was happening, and then Jamie was like, and I'm out!
The most curious thing about just their, initial sort of scene together on the show is that you have Nick, who is at the door of Jamie and Leela, and Jamie, he could have actually, I think, gone harder and not letting Nick in. He could have been like, this guy's a really big problem. We should call the police. We should lock the door to make sure he doesn't get in. And I think he's trying to appease, I guess, Leela on some level, who is sort of just like, let him in. Do you want to have dinner?
I think you hit something there by he could have called the police.
Yeah.
That's why I think there's something that's dark between the two of them. I don't know if it's they killed somebody, whatever it is, it's attached to this Sonia character. I feel that together they did something and they have something on each other.
And it's almost as though Jamie in that moment is sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place, where, I mean, if there is something from their past, then maybe he can't call the police because then maybe Nick fesses up to it, Jamie goes down with it. That's not an option for him.
Yeah, and Nick at dinner kept sort of like circling around, oh, should I tell her? Or how about this?
Yeah.
Or how about I tell her? So he is dangling whatever it is that Jamie did or Jamie and Nick did together or something that they're going to do together. There's something there between them that Nick is ready to spill the beans on.
And I'm guessing that Jamie must have just hoped that Nick wasn't going to do anything crazy and that he could go in, they could all have their dinner together, Leela could give them the ice cream, and then they can all just go about their merry way.
Okay, I need to talk about this wife for a second here.
Okay.
The only thing that really kind of bugged me a little bit about this premiere is that the wife feels very clueless. And her knowing her husband as well as she does, to then see him acting this way and overhearing little bits of conversation and stuff, it feels like she would be digging a lot deeper into this, and she's just not. I know that if it was me, I'd be like, really, what's going on? Like, there's something going on. We need to flesh it out.
Unless, of course, she is actually somehow involved and she knows Nick, and that the two don't want Jamie to know that they know each other.
It's possible.
I mean, it's pretty unlikely, but we gotta have some crazy ideas to bounce out here.
Yeah, I just want to see that the wife character is not going to be just sort of like this foolish, dumb wife that's getting one put over on her.
Well, and it doesn't seem like anything too catastrophic happens because Leela's still around after what happened. Yep. She has the conversation with Ambrose, but eventually, and I don't think we see every little detail of the dinner conversation in this episode,
no.
They decide, Jamie and Nick decide, okay, we're going to go and finish off the night in whatever shape or form that is.
Yeah, and the thing that was brought up as well is the idea that maybe they had seen each other before this night, because Nick's been in town for a few days.
Yeah.
So we also saw at the dinner table that Nick has a bandage on his hand. And then later, after he died, we saw Jamie having like a visual of that same bandage, of it filling with blood. I think that they have seen each other before Nick showed up at Jamie's house.
This is where we dive into the theory debate of things, because I don't. I think that they had not seen each other, because I almost feel like if Jamie knew that Nick was going to be in town and make a mess of things, he doesn't seem to obviously want Nick there. Maybe plan a vacation. Maybe be like, Leela, you want to go down to Long Island for a few days and try to get away from this guy?
My feeling is that he thought maybe he could meet up with Nick and smooth it over so he wouldn't come over to his house. Because sometimes that's the way you go about it. Oh man, I'm just going to go over, we'll talk it out, it'll be all good, and then that'll be the end of it.
I think no matter what, we can probably say that the cut on the hand is pretty significant. The center likes to kind of float around symbology, likes to have a lot of rituals and cultish things on some of their seasons. So I wouldn't be surprised if that cut on the hand is signifying something that happened with Jamie and with Nick all the way back when they were in college together, and maybe once Jamie sees that symbol, it means something to him, and maybe that's sort of a tip-off that, there's something that Nick is going to make me do.
And it was interesting that his wife asked if possibly Nick was in love with him, and that Jamie did admit that they had sort of tried something in college, but it didn't work. I feel like it's kind of a lie. I'm not 100% on that yet, but I feel like that we tried something and it didn't work out. There might be something a little more going on. I'm not saying that they were in love or anything like that, but I think that whatever they did, the darkness side of it, like whether they murdered somebody or whatever it has to do with, that them having any kind of like a friendship on top of a possible relationship, or at least some sort of physical relationship, that it's all tied together and bonded them in some sort of way that Nick is not letting go of.
Yeah, and I think I do agree with that, and I think Jamie probably does want to let go of it, and maybe they were together once, maybe it was a couple times. I think ultimately Jamie clearly wants to get away from this situation. He moves somewhere that presumably Nick's not going to be able to find him.
Yep.
And then, lo and behold, he finds him. And really, there's a lot of big gaps in between what we saw with them at dinner, Ultimately, it seems as though Nick's hotel was involved here at some point.
Yep.
And then eventually we get to the scene of the crash where they're on a private road out kind of not exactly in the way that you would go back to Jamie's place.
Yeah, and it's all sort of leading toward this Sonia woman's property. She owns 60 acres. She's the only person there.
Yeah.
They did sort of talk a little bit in the car that they were headed there to do something.
Yeah.
We don't know what the connection is yet.
Yeah.
But there's a connection there. And even when she was sort of shown the pictures, you could see on her face that she knows them.
Yeah, Sonia's going to be a big part in this season. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe she was in 2 minutes of this episode. I mean, she really didn't have that important a role, but...
Not yet.
Not yet. I think the quickest theory that I can kind of put together in my head for what's going on here is that Nick is some sort of ritualistic killer and he needs to do something for whatever reason. Maybe it's not, he may not be a serial killer or anything like that, but this Sonia woman may know something about Nick's past that could eventually threaten him, and maybe Nick had told Jamie many years ago, someday I'm going to show up and I'm going to ask you to do something and you have to do it. And Jamie's been trying to hide out from it, and I think Nick may have come to collect and do exactly what he's been wanting to do. But the interesting part of all this, though, is that it doesn't seem as though Sonia was aware that they were coming. It seems as though that part of it was an element of surprise. So, I mean, I think it is clear, though, like you said, that these three probably know each other on some level. It's just the question is, why do this now? It doesn't seem like Sonia was in a position where she was about to go and rat a bunch of people out. I mean, she's living out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, she is, but she may be hiding from Nick as well. I mean, if this whole college thing is really true, I mean, they said they're friends from college. They may not actually be friends from college. We don't know. But let's just go with that narrative that actually is the truth and that they are friends from college. It is possible that Sonia was there as well.
Yeah, and I think Ambrose is a good cop. I think that's the thing we can sort of figure out at this point in the 3 seasons. Yes, he can be very, very obsessive. He can get way too into the cases that he is studying, but he pieces things together really well. Like, he was already able to look at this accident and be like, okay, there's something that's off about this.
Yeah, the thing that he brought up that is really the most interesting to me is sort of the timeline of things. So there was the car crash, then there was an hour before they actually called 911. So, and they said that when paramedics showed up that Nick had just died.
Yeah.
So that means that there was an hour or so in there where it was just Nick and just Jamie. And so for me, that conversation, I don't think we're going to get to see all that conversation till way deeper in. Because that's when everything's going to come out about all the confessions, who they really are to each other, what all their past is. I think that conversation is going to be the key to the kingdom. Yeah,
and I mean, for me, I'm not really sure when that conversation is going to happen. I think it could be within that hour. It could come sometime before that hour in flashbacks. It could be through specific pieces of evidence that Jamie is hiding. I mean, the thing that looks fairly clear is that Nick, at the time of the accident, he's in really bad shape. And he's in bad shape, but he's still savable. Yeah, he's still savable.
And Jamie has decided not to save him.
And so Jamie's decided not to save him shortly after the accident happens. So if that's the case, it does kind of raise the question then of what more is there to talk about at that point? Is there bargaining that's going on the part of Nick because he doesn't have the phone?
Yep.
His life is in danger. He doesn't really have any of the power in that situation at all.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really curious to see what it is that these two have on each other from the past. It was this something where Nick has been having all this power over Jamie for so long now and has been holding the secrets over him, do what I want or else kind of thing. I'm going to come to your house. I'm going to have dinner with your wife. You're about to have a kid. I know where you live. Like, it's all getting to a point that Jamie may be like, you know what, now I have the power. So now for this 1 hour, I'm going to ask what I want. I'm going to find out what I want. And then I'm just going to let you die.
I think this is going to sound really bizarre, but I feel like the number one question at the top of my head is is Jamie Burns a good person? And what I mean by this is he someone who got caught way in over his head with a dangerous person like Nick, who's found a way to hang something over on him, and Jamie has just been trying to get away from all of this and try to establish a life that he wants, and he just makes a decision in this moment to escape this person he considers a tormentor?
Yeah.
Or are they co-conspirators? Is Jamie just as bad as Nick? Or is Jamie actually worse than Nick? And somehow he still holds this allure over Nick that makes Nick want to see him because Nick can't imagine his life without him.
I just kind of wonder if Jamie is just as bad as Nick, but he doesn't want to admit it because nobody wants to admit to themselves that they're a bad person or that they're doing bad things, and that Jamie's been projecting how bad he is onto Nick, because we did see that little sort of hallucination that he had of Nick coming in the back door and cutting his wife's throat. So, but that was in his head. So if he's thinking about those types of things, it made me think that Jamie is as bad or worse than Nick, but that he's maybe using Nick in his head as, oh, well, you're the bad guy. You're the guy who's doing this type of stuff, but really it's him.
There's two interesting reads with this. I think that's one of them, that he is sort of trying to rationalize his thinking by sort of blaming it on Nick, or that he is just so traumatized by the idea of Nick's arrival that even after he's dead, all of these fears that he had about Nick are now all of a sudden keep coming and there's no escaping them, even though a part of his brain knows he's gone. This is the beauty, I think, of The Sinner. We're only an episode in. I think the case itself, fundamentally, it's simple. There's a car accident. Here's when it happens. We know who's dead.
Yeah.
Yet everything around it is so bizarre and chaotic that we don't know where the pieces fit. I'm pretty excited, though, for what's going to be coming up next.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I really love about this show, is that they give you just enough that it gives us the full week to discuss it with our friends and get into theories and talk about where it's going. And there's not a lot of shows out there that do that as well as The Sinner. So I'm really excited about this season. I really like Matt. The cast is great.
Yeah.
The story is great. So I'm pretty stoked.
All right, well, let's get your thoughts on this. And we'll do this throughout the season, but what do you think about The Sinner Season 3 premiere? Do you have ideas as to what the history is between Nick and Jamie? The thing that's going to be the most fun is seeing how all this changes over time as we get more information. So if you did like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and you can support us further by checking the link in the description to the CARTERMATT store. And we'll see you here next time.